and welcome again to the Magna Carta Sports Network. I'm your host, Wes, and tonight I'm going to give you a bit of a recap on games that happened last night in the NBA. There are a lot of interesting things that happened, and it's a very exciting time as always. I think for everyone, for fans, for players, I think the beginning of the season is an exciting time. It's fresh, everything is ready. By late December, January, kind of become like the rough days where you're kind of just pushing through as best as possible. But for right now, it's a great show just of talent, of athleticism, of everything that one could ask for. So just a few things that I'm looking into today. Number one, Paolo Banchero, the number one overall draft pick. He was everything and more that team hoped that he would be. There was a lot of talk leading up to the draft of who would be the number one draft pick, whether or not it'd be Smith out of Auburn, it would be Chet Holmgren, but Orlando Magic did a great job of kind of hiding their decision, kind of just hanging out and like making everyone think it was Smith was going to be number one, and ended up being Banchero. And you saw it a lot in summer league, and today for his first game, he comes up and he puts up 27 points in his NBA debut. The first thing that you see when you watch the highlights is he looks like a man among boys. It's I don't want to call him LeBron, but he looks kind of in the same way where from day one, he's physically able to impose his will on NBA players who've been in the league for 10 years. There was just nothing the Pistons could do to stop him. He's pulling up for threes. He's blocking shots. He's running the court. He had a great dunk where he's running in a fast break in the fourth quarter on the left side of the wing, drives down with one hand, one dribble. He rises up, somebody trying to take a charge, and he dunks on him. And it was a wow moment for a guy who is 6'10", 250 pounds, watching a move like that. You're like, okay, the Orlando Magic finally have their foundational piece. Orlando has been really good at that. They've had, I believe, 3 number one draft picks in their history. They have been Shaq, Dwight Howard, and now Paolo Banchero. And from what I'm seeing, he looks like, for the next 10 or 12 years, he's going to average 25 points a game. Pretty much put him, in repeated All-Star games and, all NBA performances. The one thing the Orlando Magic are missing is a point guard. Suggs is a good player, but I think he's much better served as an off guard. He's a bigger body. He's able to shoot the three, defend, and everything else. But I think the overall, just having him as a point guard, it might not work long term. Who knows? Maybe he may develop into something exactly what they need. But right now, they're in, their team is really well rounded. They're huge. They have 4, 5, 6 guys that are 6'10" and above that all play. So their starting lineup generally is going to be like 6'9" with like a 7'2" wingspan. A small forward, they have Banchero, they have the big guy Wendell Carter, I believe, Wendell Carter. And then, Mo Bamba, you got Bobo coming off the bench. They are a big team. And, it's interesting watching these GMs draft right now. And you see their philosophy that these 7-foot guys that can handle the basketball are popping up everywhere right now. The one thing that I did see, the Orlando Magic played the Pistons. Jaden Ivey is a rookie that the Pistons drafted. And he is explosive. Like, from my first thought when I see him is he is a 6'4" version of Ja Morant. He's quick in the open court. He's a great leaper. He's going to be a great player for that team. I'm not sure if they make the playoffs this year. It's a pretty deep year, but I'm a huge fan of their coach. I'm a huge fan of their team overall, and I am a firm believer that they're going to be a player. A lot like how the Pelicans are in the Western Conference. I think the Pistons are set up to be just a team that no one wants to play in the next few years as they develop and they learn more from there. The second thing I'm looking for, and second thing I watched last night, was the Pelicans are going to be a handful this year. I've never really been a huge fan of them, never really thought they were too serious, but the moves that David Griffin has done as a GM, bringing in CJ McCollum, their depth is unbelievable. We talked a little bit about the Lakers and how they don't have too many wings yesterday on the podcast, but the Pelicans are deep, man. They have wing players for days. They have guards for days. A big guy who can eat up minutes and eat up possessions during the regular season. He can give you 17 points a night, 10 or 11 rebounds. As the season goes along, 82 games is a long time. So just having bodies to be able to throw on the floor, to be able to give your guys some rest, helps a long way as in terms of getting into the finals or getting to the playoffs and making a deep run there. Brandon Ingram, the first thing when I turned on the video and I watched a little bit of the highlights, he has put in the work. He is 100%. I think he was the leading scorer tonight. I believe with 27 points, and he just has put in the work. His frame is filled out. For the longest time, there were a lot of questions about whether or not he would grow into his body. He was so skinny. No one's pushing him around anymore. He's ready to take the next step. And with the three of them between CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson, it's going to be a difficult task for anyone to stop this team. Their defense is unbelievable, and they're just going to put up points. They beat the Nets pretty soundly. If this is a prelude to what to expect, I think things are going to implode pretty quickly. The Pelicans were up by 20 early in the first half. That's made a little bit of a comeback before halftime, and then after the halftime, they just beat them soundly. Like Ben Simmons had 4 points, and Kyrie was really kind of hit or miss for the most part during the game. But this is going to be a very tense season, and the more the losses start piling up, the more lack of communication is going to be able to show itself. It's interesting because as we watch the game, right, a 34-year-old LeBron, I say like LeBron back in his final year with the Cleveland Cavaliers, that player on this Nets team would be able to likely take his team to the finals. But as you're watching Durant he's a good player. There's just something off. Like, what I mean? Like he isn't the leader of the team. He's a great scorer, but he's more of he's probably like the best second player, the best Robin that has probably ever played the game. But he himself, he doesn't galvanize the team like what Luka did last year, being able to take the Dallas Mavericks, who many thought were just going to make it into the play-in, and taking them to the Western Conference Finals. That isn't what Durant is at this point of his career, and for the most part, he hasn't been able to do that overall. So just watching to see what happens. Kyrie's a free agent next year. Whether or not, if a team loses, they're not offering him a contract. They didn't offer him one this summer, and they're likely not. If things go badly, not going to offer him one this coming year. The third thing I'm looking at is the Ja Morant. I'm sure many of you are watching this remember 2011, Derrick Rose's MVP year. This is looking like Ja Morant's year. Ja Morant is, the last 2 years have won the MVP was Jokic in Denver 2 years in a row. Then it was Giannis prior to that. Some of the things to consider historically when you win the MVP is your team has a lot of wins. You're first place, second place, sometimes third place, but generally first or second. You put up a lot of points. And as you're looking around the NBA right now, is people are betting on Luka. I think Jokic has played, 1 or 2 years in a row, so there's generally going to be a fatigue for him. But Ja Morant looks like the candidate right now. He's going to get up and down the court. He's going to score a lot of points. He's going to be on every highlight reel that you can think about. And as the time is getting closer and people are looking at different things, there's going to be a reason, as the year goes along and they're in first place, as they're in second place, and they're getting wins. And every time you look up, Ja Morant is doing another tomahawk dunk. More and more people are going to be pushing. It's time for him to have his MVP year. So I'm expecting, him to finish definitely in the top 3 of MVP votes. He had 34 points last night. They played against the Knicks. Knicks, it was a pretty disappointing first game. I think for the Knicks, they fought it and kept things close for a little while, but overall they lost. Cam Reddish went from not playing after getting traded last year to having a great game. He really played well. Everyone has seen the overall talent that he has. It's a matter of just putting everything together. He's 6'9" with like a 7-foot wingspan or 7'2" wingspan. He is everything and more someone can want in a wing player. The Knicks didn't extend him, and if he continues as he started this year, he's going to be out of their price range, which is a really Knicks thing to do, to trade a first round pick and then not and have him walk in free agency because you didn't want to pay him. But everything is cool. Everything's going to happen for a reason. We'll see how the Knicks do this year. They have Jalen Brunson, who they brought in. They have a few other young guys. Obi Toppin. Hopefully they give him some minutes. Julius Randle's still standing before him, but it will be an interesting team to watch all year. They're going to be scrappy, and we'll see how it plays out. The fourth thing that I watched last night was the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are going to be interesting. The first, a few years ago, the Lakers won the championship, and they had a starting lineup of JaVale McGee. They had Anthony Davis, LeBron. Kyle Kuzma played a lot. Their thing was they were a big team. And what happens is if you ever play basketball is that it's easier if you're playing for 4 quarters, right? It's easy in the first quarter. If you're a smaller team, to use athleticism to make crazy shots. But as the game wears on and you're playing someone who is 5 or 6 inches taller than you, and you have to jump at the top of your jump every single play. And eventually, while in the beginning of the first quarter or the second quarter, you can do that. As the game wears on, your legs tire out. And just having a great size to your team, it benefits you. The things that people have to use so much energy to do, you mostly just walk up and down the court and just jump. So the Minnesota Timberwolves start Rudy Gobert, who's 7'2". They have a power forward in Cat. Karl Anthony Towns, who's 7 feet tall. They have Jaden McDaniels, who's 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. He is growing into a really great 3-and-D player. He's exactly what the team needed. You have Anthony Edwards at the guard spot, who is all-world athletic, and then you have Russell. I don't know why his name's going blank here. You have Russell, their point guard, at 6'5" as well. So their team is just a long, big team. While they're not going to press up on you a lot, it's going to be difficult for people to score in the paint. Watching them right off the bat, my first thought is that's a top 7 defense in the NBA this year. If everyone stays healthy, everything relatively healthy. And the thing that they've done really well is that they've developed their bench. They've brought in Slow-Mo from the Grizzlies. They have different players that can just come in that are 6'6", 6'7", that can run up and down the court. So they're going to get a lot of wins, a lot of W's, and they're going to bother a lot of teams. The overall structure of their team, I don't think they have that number one. They're missing the actual point guard to guard this team. Like if they had Chris Paul or something like that, this would be the number one seeded team in the NBA. But without him, they'll probably end up being either a 3 seed to a 5 seed in the playoffs, and then go off and give someone some really big problems. So my hope is that they can get a first round home playoff game where they're the host team and be able to go from there. Like Anthony Edwards really showed himself in the playoffs last year. I think another chance for them to go out this year to prove themselves. Rudy Gobert is going to help them so much. And just to go from there is going to be a great opportunity for the team to develop. The fifth thing that I saw last night was the Atlanta Hawks. They were able to win, and they're going to be fun to watch. There was so much talk that John Collins, their power forward, was going to get traded. He's a really athletic lob threat, shoots a 3 a little bit, but they ended up paying him, I believe, last summer to stay with the team. And they were able to add Murray from the San Antonio Spurs without really giving up too many key players. They give up some draft picks, and that's always rough to give up. But having Murray as your second point guard, having Trae Young as your point guard, it's going to help a lot. Where it's in time past, it was always so Trae Young dependent. When he would go to the bench, the overall offense would mostly just crater. Now you have someone who can give him a break. So the things that he has been able to do in the playoffs, talking about Trae Young, will now be able to, I think will be able to expand even more now because he's not going to have to work as hard in the regular season. He's still going to be an all-star. He's still going to get his points and everything else, but he's able to take a break without worrying about getting back in the game. I think Murray's going to be a lockdown defender for them. He's going to be able to average, close to 20 points a game and just be a steadying force when Trae Young is not overall in the game. A big thing, and depending on how good they can be, will be DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter is a 6'8" wing who was drafted out of Virginia a few years ago. He is a big, long defender who can put the ball on the floor. He can get buckets, but he's a bit inconsistent. He's had some injury issues the last few years, and just watching him now, it's if how the team goes as far as he can go. If he can develop into a consistent, he's going to play 65, 70 games. He's going to give you 17 to 18 points a night. This team can be very, very good. The NBA overall, the overall depth of talent is just wide right now. Many years ago, there was talk about how teams were so terrible, but teams are really interesting right now. The Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, teams that may not make the playoffs are just going to be fun to watch. The Kings. This is going to be a very fun season if you're a fan. I'm looking to get to a few games to go and watch some things live. I have a young son, so hopefully be able to take him to see some of these games. But overall, this is going to be just a fun season. Finally, there's some honorable mention things that I'm watching for as well. As always, the Victor Wembanyama watch. It's going to be an interesting one. The San Antonio Spurs open the season with a glorious loss. This team may be lucky if they get the 6 wins this year. And I think their fan base and their coach as well is hoping that they stay under 10 wins so they get as many ping pong balls as possible to be able to draft Victor Wembanyama. This happened back in the 90s where the team had David Robinson, and he ended up getting hurt for a year. And they tanked so hard that year that they ended up getting Tim Duncan. So you end up putting 2 Hall of Fame bigs together, and they go off and they end up winning multiple championships just with that foundation of David Robinson and Tim Duncan. This is another opportunity, and it would be a great situation for them. I'm not sure if Pop will be around long enough to really develop a young player that way, but this would be a great situation for that overall team. A lot of other teams are doing well. The Jazz, they end up winning. I don't get it, but best believe Danny Ainge is going to be looking to trade some people as they continue to try to tank themselves as well to get some opportunities there. We'll see how things go. Finally, and last but not least, the Miami Heat. My boy is a huge Miami Heat fan, and he sent me a message last night just about how soft Bam looks and Kyle Lowry. So I had to open up and check the box score, and Kyle Lowry has 2 points. He is falling off a cliff, it looks like. He's always been a bit heavier, and that culture in Miami is very rough. It's hard practices. It's weight measurements on a normal basis. LeBron used to talk about it all the time. And Pat Riley mentioned something about it in the offseason about how Kyle needed to lose some weight to come in better shape. And Kyle kind of rolled his eyes at it. So last night, Kyle Lowry had 2 points, 1 of 7 shooting and 0 of 5 from 3. This is, many can say it's just the first game. Things will pick up from there. But overall, as a Miami Heat fan, you would hope that he would be the second or third star to your team. Tyler Hero is doing his job. He had a chance to start last night. He put up 20-plus points. Jimmy Butler, he played pretty well himself. He had, I think, 24 points for the night. He's always going to be able to grind and get his buckets. He's going to have some injuries throughout the year, but for the most part, he's going to be a big-time playoff player. But they were expecting big things from Kyle Lowry. I believe they're paying him about $30 million a year. So it kind of hurts right now when he isn't able to give you what you expected of him. And we'll see how things go from there. But this is just my overall wrap up from what I saw last night. I'll look to continue doing this on a daily basis. Well, tonight's an interesting night with the Clippers, Lakers, and then the Bucks, Sixers. Again, I'm a Sixers fan. If things go south, I'm hoping that we're able to trade for this. The Sixers need a Draymond Green type of player. Like they just need someone with energy and overall leadership. So I'm hoping somehow, some way we can get that done. That does happen. I got my Sixers in the finals, but outside of that, it's likely a semifinals exit. So we'll be watching to see what happens tonight on the games, and we'll be looking to follow up with a recap of that tomorrow. Again, if it's your first time listening, if you like the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to the Magna Carta Sports Network, and we will look to continue this in the future. Have a good day.